This is the reply I received from my member of the Scottish Parliament. Dear Mr. Thank you for your recent inquiry regarding your concerns about the UK Government's bedroom tax, which will see social tenants with spare bedrooms penalised with a reduction in their housing benefit. The UK Government's decision to implement the bedroom tax from April this year will disproportionately affect the most vulnerable in our society and penalise many households through no fault of their own. The households deemed by the UK Government to have one extra bedroom will have their housing benefit cut by 14%, and those with two or more extra bedrooms will incur a 25% cut. Now, Dundee City Council has estimated that nearly 3,400 households in the city will be affected by the bedroom tax, with the total cost for housing tenants alone amounting to 1.3 million a year. 583 of them will be hit by the larger cut of 25%, which will amount to an annual cost to them of £1,044 per year. When the government's 1% cap on the annual increase in benefits and rising household bills are both taken into account, it's clear that the bedroom tax will cause real hardship for these families. For those already struggling with household bills, and the many who are often faced with the choice of heating or eating, the UK Government's bedroom tax will compound their misery. In order to avoid the bedroom tax, tenants will have to try and find smaller properties. Unfortunately, there's simply not enough properties or shared accommodation for them to move to in Dundee or anywhere else in Scotland, and indeed across the UK. The risk is that households will be unable to make up their rent payments and accrue greater and greater rent arrears and be forced deeper into debt. In response to this, the Scottish Government has announced measures that will help mitigate the impact of the UK Government's damaging welfare reforms. For example, the Social Fund, which was substantially cut by Westminster Government when it was passed to Scotland to be administered here from April, will be topped up with £9 million of funds from the Scottish Government, bringing it to a total of £33 million. These additional funds will enable the Scottish Government to help an extra 100,000 people. These will be used for discretionary payments, for example households who have fallen upon hard times and cannot afford to heat their homes or feed their children. In Dundee, the SNP administration is making further improvements to its Welfare Rights Service, with help from the council to cope with the expected increase in Dundonians seeking help with their benefits as a result of the UK Government's welfare reforms. Dundee City Council has also been writing out to tenants who are affected and visiting them to explain what the bedroom tax will mean to them and to ensure that they are aware of the help that is available. In addition to this, extra funds have been allocated for discretionary housing payments, which will help those who are struggling to pay their rent because of the reforms. The SNP administration has also announced that attempts are also being made to make it easier for council tenants to move to smaller properties should they wish to do so. I understand that this will involve changes to the allocation policy so that those being penalised by the bedroom tax and want to downsize are given extra points to help improve their prospects. Dundee City Council is also investing many millions of pounds in insulating tenants' homes and putting in efficient gas central heating systems so that tenants' fuel bills are lower. The work carried out on your building is a good example of this. I hope you are finding that your home is warmer and bills are lower. Soon tenants in the 5 multis in Hilltown and 6 in Lochee will all benefit from the heating systems and new cladding, which is cutting the heating bills by up to 40%. The council wants to make all its properties cheaper to heat and is looking for help from the energy companies to do this. At the moment, Scotland's welfare system is still controlled from London by the Westminster government. When the bedroom tax part of the Welfare Reforms Bill was debated in the House of Commons last year, 316 MPs voted in favour of it, and 263 voted against it. Had only the votes of the Scottish MPs counted, the UK government's bedroom tax would have been overwhelmingly rejected. For example, when the House of Commons voted on capping benefit rises at 1%, which will be well below inflation and therefore mean that people become increasingly worse off, the total number of MPs that voted for the 1% cap was 324 for and 268 against. Among the Scottish MPs, the result was the reverse, with 46 MPs voting against the motion and just 11 voting for the motion. In short, while Scotland's representatives oppose the UK government's punitive welfare reforms, they are being imposed on Scotland by Westminster thanks to the votes of MPs from England and Wales. It will likely come as no surprise to you that as an SNP MSP, I would prefer for decisions on the most important issues like the welfare of the Scottish people to be made by the people of Scotland's representatives in the Scottish Parliament rather than Tory MPs representing England and Wales. Next year, in the 2014 referendum on independence, the people of Scotland will have the opportunity to choose a different path from Westminster, relentless cuts agenda and its attacks on the most vulnerable in society. With independence, we will no longer have to put up with Tory cuts being forced upon Scotland against our will, nor the obscenity of costly nuclear weapons being dumped on the Clyde. The alternative to independence is a future shaped by a Westminster system that is increasingly out of touch with Scotland and the values we hold dear. With regard to your query about whether the UK government's bedroom tax would infringe upon your human rights as provided for in the European Convention of Human Rights, you make an interesting point. While I'm not qualified to provide you with legal advice on the matter, I understand that some of those affected by the bedroom tax are considering whether it infringes upon their human rights.